Just as delicious as the classic Cinnabon cinnamon rolls, this recipe is also super easy to make. Hi mindful moms and dads, Kristen here. As someone who suffers from a chronic disease, I believe homemade is best, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Today I'm sharing with you my family's favorite breakfast recipe ever. No, scratch that, it's their favorite recipe of all time. Homemade cinnamon rolls. Instead of having 830 calories and 36 grams of fat like a Cinnabon cinnamon roll, this recipe only has 240 calories per cinnamon roll and 4 grams of fat. But none of that matters if the taste or flavor is compromised. We're talking about cinnamon rolls after all. They're supposed to be decadent. Well, don't worry, the flavor is still spot on and nobody will be missing anything. So let's put on our kitchen capes and make the most delicious cinnamon rolls. The first thing we need to do is make our dough. Now this recipe uses 1 pound of bread dough, and while homemade tastes best, you can certainly just purchase a pound of bread dough that you can find in your freezer section of your grocery store and let that thaw out overnight. For the dough, stir 1 teaspoon of dry active yeast into 1 cup of warm water and let that sit for 5 minutes so that the yeast activates and the liquid gets nice and foamy. Stir in 1 tablespoon of honey to that mixture. To the yeast mixture, add in 2½ cups of all-purpose or whole white wheat flour that's been mixed with a pinch of salt. Stir that together with a wooden spoon and knead by hand until the dough forms a smooth ball. It should take a couple minutes. Of course, you can do this using a stand mixer and your dough hook, and it'll only take a couple minutes, but it comes together so fast that I find using my hands is easier. Cover the dough with a kitchen towel or plastic wrap and let rise in a warm place for about an hour. In a small bowl, mix together 1/3 cup of sugar. I'm using raw cane sugar. You can use granulated sugar. It really doesn't matter. With 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. Trust me on the cloves. It's going to give these cinnamon rolls so much warmth and make them exceptional. Brush 1 tablespoon of melted butter in an 8x8 baking dish. Once the dough has doubled inside, punch down the dough and roll the dough out into about a 9x13 inch rectangle. Then brush the dough evenly with about 1 to 2 tablespoons of melted butter. I typically only use 1 tablespoon, but you can certainly use up to 2 if you want a more decadent cinnamon roll. Sprinkle the sugar mixture evenly over the dough, roll the cinnamon dough up lengthwise, cut the dough into 9 equal pieces, and place the 9 cinnamon rolls spread out evenly in your buttered baking dish. Cover the dough, and now you have 2 options. You can let your dough rise for an hour and then bake immediately, or if you want to prep the night before, what I recommend doing is letting your cinnamon rolls rise for 30 minutes, then covering with plastic wrap and popping into the fridge. They'll slowly rise overnight and they'll be ready to bake in the morning. When you're ready to bake, preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Right before you put your cinnamon rolls into the oven, brush with an additional tablespoon of melted butter and then bake for 23 to 28 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. While the cinnamon rolls are baking, whisk together a simple glaze by mixing together 2 tablespoons of softened cream cheese with 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of milk. Add in 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and whisk until nice and smooth, and then add in an additional 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and more as needed to make the glaze as thick as you like. Spread the glaze over the warm cinnamon rolls and serve, and be ready to hear oohs and ahs from your entire family. And what goes better with cinnamon rolls than a good cup of coffee? Catch me in my next video where I show you how to make a perfect latte in just 60 seconds. It's another winner. I'll see you there.